Depending on the needs, people sometimes conduct risk assessment at the summary level first to produce a list of prioritized risks very quickly. This is analogous to the triage procedures that hospital emergency room use to ensure that they can help patients in greatest need first. It allows teams to quickly triage risks in order to identify the high and moderate risks, which enables the team to focus its efforts not only on the risks deemed most important. However, the drawback is that it yields a list of the containing only high-level comparisons between risks and lacks sufficient guidance for risk mitigation decisions. The detailed risk level view enables stack ranking of risks and also includes a more detailed view of the potential financial impact from the risk. So this quantitative element facilitates cost of control decisions in the decision support process. On the negative side, it is very time-consuming. Some organizations may choose not to produce a summary-level risk list at all. Without consideration, it may seem that this strategy would save time upfront, but this is not the case. Minimizing the number of risks in the detail level risk ultimately makes the risk management process more efficient. A primary goal of a risk management process is to simplify the risk assessment process by striking a balance between added granularity for risk analysis and the amount of effort required to calculate risk. Simultaneously, it endeavors to promote and preserve clarity regarding the logic involved, so the stakeholders possess a clear understanding of risk to the organizations. Detail-level assessment can be triggered after review the summary results with stakeholders. The primary goal is to enable the organization to understand the rationale behind the most important risks to the company. It leverages many of the inputs used in the summary level list. However, the detailed review requires to be more specific in its impact and likelihood descriptions. And it also requires specific statements on the effectiveness of the current control. And it delivers an estimate of each risk in quantifiable monetary terms. There are some criteria for selecting risk from summary level. For example, high-level risk means every risk rated as high must be included on the detail list. Borderline risk, in some organizations, even more or moderated risk may be included in the detail list. Controversial risks, if a risk is new, not well understood, or viewed differently by different stakeholders, this all can be selected for detailed risk review. As a best practice, become familiar with the detailed risk assessment before the data gathering process. This helps the security risk management team ask specific questions during the initial data gathering discussions with stakeholders and minimizes the need for follow-up meetings. Information Security Group owns the prioritization process and should tailor the prioritization attributes as needed. For example, you could modify the figures to focus on application-specific vulnerabilities versus enterprise infrastructure vulnerabilities if the assessment scope focuses on application development. The goal is to have a consistent collection of criteria for evaluating risk in your environment. In the ABC Bank example, let's take a detailed level view on two high risks identified earlier: remote host compromise, LAN host compromise. We need to get into deeper on how to determine the likelihood from two perspectives. First, the likelihood of vulnerability based on its attribute and the possible exploits, such as attacker population. The likelihood of exploit increases as attacker population increases in size and technical skill level. Remote versus local access. The likelihood of normally increase if a vulnerability can be exploited remotely. Visibility of exploit. The likelihood normally increases if an exploit is well known and publicly available. Automation of exploit. The likelihood increases if an exploit can be programmed to automatically seek out vulnerabilities across large environments. Second, the likelihood of vulnerability based on effectiveness of current controls. A set of questions can be designed to evaluate the effectiveness of existing controls. We'll discuss this in risk mitigation section. In addition to likelihood details, we can also determine the impact through a quantitative scheme. Conduct exposure ratings for loss of integrity, confidentiality, and availability separately. Exposure factor, which measures the extent of damage to the asset, 100% to 20%. You adjust accordingly to your organization. Quantify impact class value for asset class. Use the formula impact equal impact class value times exposure factor to quantify the impact.